ANC has been dealt a blow with the National Assembly failing to pass the 18th Constitutional Amendment Bill to allow for land to be expropriated without compensation. The party needed at least 267 votes for the bill to amend Section 25 of the Constitution, but only managed 204. Let's talk about this then with ANC MP and the country's Justice Minister, Ronal Lamola, who's joining us from Cape Town, I believe. Minister, very good evening to you. So this wasn't a surprise outcome, was it?
Yeah, no, it was not, because the coalition partners of the EFF, the Freedom Front Plus, the DA, and other of their partners had already pronounced that they are going to vote together in opposition of the bill. So it was not a real surprise, but for us it is not the end of the world, as we will proceed with the expropriation bill that is currently before Parliament. Rural Development is in the process of crafting a redistribution bill. There is also before Parliament the Land Court bill, and government has released 700,000 hectares of land. So we are proceeding with what is within our means with the program of land reform.
So the problem with the bill that was rejected today across the opposition aisle is that the DA, for example, says it's so radical that it's in fact unconstitutional that you want to expropriate land without compensation. On the other extreme end, you've got the EFF saying it's not going to support this bill because this bill is basically a sellout arrangement for the majority black people in this country who are landless. Where then is the middle ground in your view?
Yeah, no, the DA is incorrect. The bill is within constitutional parameters. And there is no country in the world that does not have an expropriation instrument. And also the EFF, they are the ones who are sellouts because the bill does allow for expropriation without compensation in certain defined circumstances, which are defined in the expropriation bill. What the EFF wanted us to do was to put all land under the custodianship of the state, which was going to have an effect of depriving or expropriating all land, even of people who have bought land in the open market on their own. That includes black people, the black middle class, who are now residing in the townships like Soweto, in Kaelicha, in Soshanguve, or any part of the country. They were now going to be tenants of the states. And these are people who have fought against being tenants of the state under the Black Administration Act. They have fought to have the land, they have fought to have freehold under the land in which they are currently residing. So we can't take them back to apartheid and they become perpetual minors under whom we administer their land on their behalf. Hence, we said the process must be, the bill must target certain categories of land. Therefore, that's why we said their position is anti-economic freedom, no anti-democratic.
But this bill, if you are still determined to pass the legislation in this form, this amendment to the Constitution, it simply won't see the light of day then if it's being rejected so roundly. So what are you willing to change, to chuck out or include in order to get broader political support, because you do need that majority in Parliament to get this?
Yeah, it will definitely pass the Parliament because what we needed today, because it was a constitutional amendment, it's a 2/3 majority. But for the expropriation bill, which is a primary legislation, we do not, which is a secondary legislation, we do not need a 2/3 majority. We just need a simple majority, which we have in Parliament as the governing party, as the ANC. So with the numbers we have in the National Assembly, we will be able to pass the expropriation bill, we will be able to pass the redistribution bill, we will be able to pass the land court bill, and we will also be able to pass the Communal Land Rights Act, which is aimed at providing security of tenure to communal land, particularly the land in rural areas that was under the former Bantustans. And we will be able, because we are currently governing, to continue to release the state-owned land that we have at our disposal. As I've said, we have released 700,000 hectares of land that we are distributing across the country. We are providing it to beneficiaries of land reform in a form of freehold title, or in certain circumstances in a leased hold, but with a high security of tenure for those that might be leasing the land from the state.
But do you accept, Minister, that we wouldn't be in this position if the ANC had not failed to make the best of existing land restitution frameworks.
Yes, no, that one, as the ANC, we do accept that we have not moved at the required pace in terms of land reform. We also accept that there could have been corruption in our processes of land reform. And if we had used maximally, for example, the Constitution provide for, in terms of Section 25(5), for the Redistribution Act. If we had passed the Redistribution Act, and also if we had provided for security of tenure under communal land, we could be more advanced in terms of our land reform program. But there is some work that we did, as I've said in Parliament, that we've redistributed about 11% of the land to black people. We have also, according to some of the economists, they argue that in fact there's also a number of about 5 to 9% that bought the land with their own money, black South Africans in the market on their own, which is also progress, because under apartheid, black people were not allowed to buy land in certain areas, but they have that land now, they bought it. But the effect of putting it under custodianship, it will have also meant that the black people who bought that kind of land and the community like in Tafelkop, whom have fought for the past 25 years to receive title deeds, will have also been deprived of their land. They were now going to be tenants of the state. They were going to lease from us, and that will not have provided them security of tenure. Hence, we advocate for expropriation of certain particulars of land that will not affect the security of tenure, particularly of those that have benefited the black beneficiaries.
I want to speak to you about the crisis of public confidence that you face as we sit here tonight. A lot of people are saying, well, yeah, even if the ANC's version of land expropriation without compensation was one they viewed as more rational than the others, what they don't have faith in is the ability of an ANC government to run that process as fairly and as honestly and as corruption-free as possible, because we're sitting currently with an administration that's facing allegations that monies meant for face masks in a pandemic was stolen.
No, that is incorrect, because as we speak now, as I've said earlier, there is 700,000 hectares of land that we are currently distributing. And that land, we are doing it in a transparent manner. There was an advert by the Department of Rural Development. All people who need the land, they have applied, is following due processes. So it's transparent, due process, and it is done in a manner that anyone can be able to follow it up. And I believe that is the best way to proceed. It must be transparent. It must follow administrative law, which rural development is currently doing. So we do have the experience of administering the land, including the one that we've administered under the Restitution of Land Act. There might have been corruption in some of it, but some of it, the corruption came from both the landowners and some of the officials, because they inflated prices to be too high for and so forth. But the majority of it that was redistributed, it was able to move through to the beneficiaries. There was no corruption. It's just a minority of it. And I think that in investigation, there's processes. So there are systems in place that can enable the current government to administer a process of land reform that is transparent.
It may be a minority, Minister, and the issue of processes that are able, for example, to keep out corruption has been ventilated across other sectors. But the point I was making was about an issue of perception and reality that is colored by, as you say, even if it's not the majority where corruption is prevalent, it's where we have seen it. But I want us to move on to another aspect.
When corruption is identified, whoever is involved must be arrested. There must be due process to deal with that person.
Okay. I suspect that those responsible were tampering with your line, because we actually lost your signal there for a moment. But let me ask you about something else.
I'm saying wherever corruption is involved, it must be identified. Whoever is in that process must be arrested, and the law must take its course.
Okay, let's talk about another idea that was floated about in the last half a decade or so, when we talk about land redistribution in this country. People saying that why not just put it to a public referendum? Do you think that is still something that we should explore? I know you've already said that the bill will pass because ANC has those numbers. But what are your thoughts on a possible referendum?
Our constitution provides processes of public consultation, which we have done, and we have heard the views across the country, which were part of the report that the chairperson of the ad hoc committee presented to Parliament today. So the views of the people of this country were properly contextualized, presented to Parliament, and we hear them. The people of South Africa want land. They want to own the land themselves. They don't want the land to be owned by the state. They want us to redistribute the land to them. And as the ANC, we agree that when we expropriate the land, when we restitute the land, when we redistribute the land, we must give it to the people in a form of a freehold or of a title deed, or in certain circumstances, there could be a lease, a kind of agreement, but with a secured tenure in terms of that lease, maybe 50 years or more, so that they are able to participate in the economy or in any social platform that they may want to participate through their access of the land.
Okay, when we tweeted, Minister, if you'll allow me, that you were coming onto the program, there were obviously a lot of comments related to the topic at hand, but you are the Justice Minister, and as happens with these sort of interviews, people ask questions about that. One of the questions that we got, in fact, that I want to pass on to you, if you could just indulge us for a moment, was this, about when the Office of the Chief Justice will become a standalone arm of the state instead of being under your department. A key conversation, I suppose, because we are currently in the search for a new Chief Justice.
The Office of the Chief Justice is a standalone department, and all processes that relate to the judiciary are run by the Office of the Chief Justice itself. But we remain accountable to Parliament in terms of the administration of the funds, the administration of the office itself, which obviously money is appropriated through Parliament. So the minister must always account for that. But the Chief Justice is responsible for the overall administration of the judiciary and also of all the processes that relate to the court.
So there shan't be further separation?
Hello?
Minister, I was just saying, so you believe that from your perspective that the current arrangement is best as things stand, correct?
Yes, the current arrangement is there, but there is still room to improve it because various jurisdictions across the world, they administer these processes in different ways. And the Department of Justice has done a research in that respect, which we will be in conversation with the judiciary in regard to the various modalities of the administration of that arm of the state, given what the judiciary proposed to cabinet with regards to this matter.
Minister Ronal Lamola, thank you so much for your time tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.